Okay, 7:01. Call to order the Milan Township Planning Commission regular meeting for November 1st, 2022. First order of business is the pledge of allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. I assume Rebecca will be here shortly. There she is. She's here.
Mind yourself. Cord was stretched.
Okay, so we have a quorum, we're all present. I would like to have a moment of silence in honor of Bill Heath. He was a good friend and he always had the township's best interests at heart. And so I'd like to take a few moments of silence for him. He was very well known and I'm sure missed by everyone. So so anyway, next order of business is approval of the October 11th meeting minutes, which I sent you earlier, as well as a copy of the deck. Over. Any additions or corrections? Is there a motion to approve the meeting minutes from October 11th?
I'll make a motion to accept.
Rebecca beat you to it. Okay. So you seconded, I assume?
I'll second that.
All right. Okay, all in favor of approving the October 11th meeting minutes, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Okay. Very good. Okay, correspondence. And there was some received a few emails, and one of the things was concerning the motion that we had sent to the township board last month to repeal the solar ordinance. There was apparently some confusion about what had transpired and what the process was going forward. We had sent the motion to request that they vote on repealing the ordinance. And apparently there was some concern on the board about the process that we had gone through. And so they decided to remove it from the agenda. However, they did not, I do know that it is on the agenda for next meeting on the 10th. The township board's responsibility is to, once we send them the recommendation, it's their responsibility to either vote for it or reject it, or to send it back to the planning commission. Just because they removed it from their agenda does not automatically send it back to the planning commission. We have to wait until they decide what they want to do with it. Also, I received an email about setbacks and also about water usage. And those are things that we will be discussing tonight or in the near future. Bob, do you have a report from the township board?
No, other than what you said, the only thing I want to mention is that we will be interviewing 2 planners on Monday, the what? 7th?
So,
Monday the 7th at
4:00.
4 o'clock at the hall.
Yes.
Right, at the hall. If anyone's interested in coming to ask questions, we're going to consider these people's resumes and questions. So, at the hall, Monday, 4.
It's considered a special meeting. And I'm not exactly sure what the protocol is for. I know there'll be public comment, but I don't know if people will be able to ask questions of the planners. The board members will be able to.
Right.
The board members, right.
If anyone has any questions, they can try turning them into a bar and we take a look at that.
Right.
Isn't that for you guys too, though,
What,
to be there to interview?
yeah, we're gonna be,
Yes.
I
we are
didn't hear
ready.
you mention the planning commission
Yes,
there.
we've been invited to
Yeah.
attend as we can. So, okay, well, yes.
Since we're on correspondence, so, standard for us, or what, I guess what would be considered the standard for correspondence as far as making it public, or, so we got all these emails from Loretta this week.
Yes.
I didn't realize, 'cause somehow Loretta's put into my junk, I don't know why, but I think that's where it for me, but, do those get posted, or what's the standard for what gets posted or just discussed?
What gets posted on the website is our specific handouts that people have provided to us. And by emails, we have not posted emails in the past. We received.
Even if it's sent to everyone. Because I guess, so you just brought up correspondence
Right.
and mentioned kind of
The topics that
the topics.
she had mentioned, yes.
Oh, those were from, that was in reference to her. email.
Yes. So, I'd like to open up for the meeting to public comment, 2 minutes per person. Oh, yes, sir.
Don't touch it. Tim Stone, Milan Township. John, I got a question for you. I don't know if you can answer this now. Why are we even doing this? You have no planner. You have no supervisor. And you have a motion hanging over us. Why are we even doing this? This is just ludicrous. Makes no sense.
Well, first of all, the planning commission works independently of the township board. The, whether they have a supervisor or not, is virtually irrelevant for what we need to do. Whether they have the motion that we sent to them, the recommendation that we sent to them, that they have not acted on, again, that is also does not affect what we are here to do, which is to address or consider the amendments to the ordinance. Now, if the interesting thing is if they rescind the ordinance, then we could, this work that we're doing will basically create a whole new ordinance, which is the same as what just rescinded with the amendments. But it'll be considered a whole brand new ordinance. If they don't rescind the ordinance, then what we're doing here is amending the ordinance. So in the end, what we are going to end up with is basically the same document, which is the ordinance with amendments.
Okay, another thing,
And also, one final question about the planner. Like Bob mentioned, the planner is being interviewed on Monday, and so we will have her on board by our next meeting, which is next Wednesday.
when did they plan on interviewing for a township supervisor?
I don't know, that's up to the board. So I didn't know that.
Another thing is, 500-foot setbacks industrial only. That's what it needs to be. The meet and greet should have told everybody in this township, what about solar? 33 people there, 5 people left when they started talking, 28 left, 8 of them were non-solar, 20 people left. That was it for the township, that was there. That should tell you something, they don't want solar. Okay.
Thank you, Jimmy. Anybody else? Public comment?
Good evening, Amanda T. The first thing is, I'm very disappointed in the meeting minutes that you guys just approved. You have 2 public hearings on, in these minutes from your last meeting. And quoting the first one, Chairman Shower opened the first public hearing in order to obtain comment regarding rescinding Article 13.27, large solar energy systems. He explained the process. Public comment was received. Shower closed the hearing. The second one, pretty much the same thing. The hearing was then open to the public for comment. There were a few comments. The public hearing was closed. I know some of you don't have your red books, but this is on page 164 of the red book. When a public body conducts a public hearing, excuse me, the minutes should include the comments and arguments of those promoting or opposing a particular matter, which is the subject of the public hearing, and the fact that an opportunity to be heard was given to those present. Which means what you've been doing with the minutes, and that's just saying people commented, and by law, that's acceptable for regular meeting minutes. A public hearing, you are supposed to include more detailed comments. Who said those comments? What they said. That is a requirement for public hearings. And I think that while, yes, these minutes are now approved, and you could, no, actually, I don't think you can, because you already approved them. But what you can do is go back through the recording and supply those comments at the next meeting. I think that would do your residents good. And I think that needs to be put into, like I said, bring them to the next meeting, make a motion to add those to the last month's minutes. That way it's part of the minutes. Because this is your history. When people look back on these minutes, they should be able to know how many people in that room showed up for or against, or what they said. That's your history. Thank you.
Thank you, Amanda. Anybody else? Yes, sir.
Hello, my name is Brendan Miller. I'm with the Land and Liberty Coalition. Reason I'm here today, I'm actually speaking on behalf of some of the landowners who could not be here today, who wanted a voice to speak up in their rights and their favors. I ask you today to protect their property rights, to see them as legitimate people and legitimate landowners who deserve an opportunity to do something with their land and, quite frankly, continue to farm. Farmers, I've talked to the farmers. I know people are laughing in the background. I've talked to the farmers who want to do this. They love their community, they love farming, and many of them, virtually all of them, want to continue to farm. This just gives them another avenue for revenue to keep the farm in the family. I'm gonna be honest with you, I'm a farmer myself, I don't farm a ton of land, I'm sub 1,000 acres, it's sub 1,000 acres. It's hard out there. I don't know how much opportunity I'm gonna have to give my farm to my kids. Those farmers look at the same exact opportunities that are lacking. Allowing solar will allow the farmers to give this to the next generation without selling out to big landowners who don't want to farm land, who want to develop the land and do other things to it. I actually have solar panels next to my house. Happened a couple of months ago, actually. Didn't even know about it. Bam, 1 acre right next to my house had solar panels put up next to it. I can tell you, they do not buzz, they do not cause glare, they do not cause a heat island, and they do not create an electromagnetic field. And I can tell you that as a fact, as somebody who works with an electrician who came out with his little gadgets to check, no fields existed. That's all lies. Last thing I want to say, 500-foot setbacks are arbitrary and exclusionary. If you were to go in front of a judge, as the planning commission, you are, I'm sure, well aware, your responsibility is to protect the health and safety and welfare of the community. 500 feet does not do any of that. Doesn't protect safety, doesn't create welfare, none of that. All it is a capricious number to try and exclude something, which, as you all know, exclusionary ordinances and exclusionary zoning is illegal under Michigan law. So I would encourage you, protect the rights of farmers, protect the rights of people to do with their land what they please. Do not make Milan Township into a glorified homeowners association. Thank you.
Thank you. Anybody else?
$100 grand in Milan Township. Joe Bolano just had a thing where they were doing an interview with all the candidates that are running. He stated 500-foot setbacks are ridiculous. He stated solar is coming because they're shutting down the coal plant. And the nuclear plant can't handle it all. It's all online. All you guys gotta do is look at it and listen to the man. He's correct all the way around. I am a landowner. I do some of the farming. I do all my own hay. I'm for this project. This is gonna help me with other bills that may come instead of like my father-in-law had to sell off land. Matt, you know, all the way across that street, 120 acres, all because of hospital bills. We're not young. Thank you.
Thank you. Yes, sir.
Chris Hornbeck, Milan Township. So when this gentleman spoke to the farmers, I don't think he spoke to all the farmers. So I don't know who he was addressing that he spoke to or not, but I do happen to know, and I apologize for that one, or, you know, for your neighbor, that's a shame. I don't think any of us in here want to lose our farmlands. I don't think that's the issue here, but there are a lot of disagreements, and to say that you represent the farmers, okay, I apologize if I stated that wrong, but at least state how many farmers you are representing, how many you talk to, because I do know farmers that don't want this. So, all right, thank you.
Thank you. Yes, sir.
This is built on my own township. Just quick comment before I read what I wanted to, in reference to some of the previous comments. I too am all for property rights, property development. I understand that there's a handful of folks that see essentially a windfall with this proposed development. Fortunately, I'm not for it because their windfalls at my expense. Apex Energy sent out a community survey recently to many of us, and I'd like to leave the board what I sent to them as my response to their inquiry and my feelings, thoughts, and concerns about the proposed project. In response to your request for feedback via a community survey, I offer the following. The proper, sound, and sensible development for industrial solar farms in Milan Township is construction and development in areas zoned industrial
and not in agricultural. Installing industrial solar farms in Milan Township's agricultural areas would be inappropriate, unnecessary blight, and forever radically changing the landscape of our beautiful community. Following the example and precedents of other local townships, we support development for industrial solar farms in Milan Township as follows. Development of industrial solar farms in areas zoned industrial only, which means no ag 1 or 2. 500-foot setbacks from property lines, not residents. By Apex personnel not living in this community and not having their homes and lives dramatically impacted by this destructive industrial blight, I can understand how and why you may not comprehend what Apex is attempting to do to this community. To Apex, this might simply be just another industrial solar complex you folks are trying to build. But to us residents, it's our homes, our investments, and our lives.
Clara Ostrander, Milan Township. Just a couple things to follow up with some of the comments earlier. As far as the farmers that Land and Liberty has spoken to, I agree, not all farmers are interested in the project, and that's fine. That is their choice and their decision. And not all farmers were included based on the layout and where their land for this particular project is. However, those that have made arrangements and agreements to do this project did it for many reasons. To this day, no one has asked me as a landowner why I was interested in doing the project. No one knows your personal situations, and I don't feel as though it is something I have to relieve to everyone here as to our personal situation and why we want to do the project. But if anyone cares to ask, I'd be willing to talk to someone one-on-one. Another thing too, I don't know that people realize this, but within the last 6 months, over 600 acres of land in Milan Township have been sold to a developer, to a non-township resident that came from land owned by family farmers in Milan Township. No longer owned by that, by people that don't live here, that don't care what happens to our township, and it will get developed at some point in time. Thank you.
Any, yes, sir.
Councilman Fellows, Apex Clean Energy, as many of you are well aware, posted our open house on October 19th. We made our preliminary site plan available on our website at azaleasolar.com, as well as a recording of that event. That event was noticed to just under 1,000 residents, all of Milan Township and a good portion of London Township as well.
Thank you. Any other comments? Yes.
Nick Stroud, I'm from Denison Road. What I want to add is something the gentleman down here said about the farmers have rights, and you know, they got the right to make money, and I understand that everybody has that right. That's the American dream. But we have to do it in a way that can work with everybody, not just one group. You got to protect these people that have a house with a 1 acre, and you're going to go around it. 75 foot and 50 foot setbacks, they're not enough. And you need to go out and look at these panels, and not in a simulated photograph that I've seen at this opening, but you got to look at these panels at 75 feet or 50 feet to see what you see. And you got to tell yourself, if that was out my bedroom window or front window, would I be okay with it? There are some laws out there. One's called the laws of enjoyment, and one is the nuisance law. There are laws out there for this. So everything isn't just for, you know, farmers have rights. Yes, they have rights, but everybody else has rights too. And I think if everybody would work together to get these setbacks on something that makes sense and get the tree planting, the screening on something that makes sense, not 4-foot trees. 4-foot tree isn't gonna cover a 12-foot panel. So let's get something that'll make sense for the farmers, get something that'll make sense for the guy who owns 1 acre in a house, so he doesn't get locked in there. And there are several areas where there's 1 acre or 5 acres, and there's gonna be a house and it's gonna be surrounded. Apex said they were gonna go 300 foot from us. So I don't understand why our ordinance is at 50 or 75. Mr. Walding had a good point, make it 500 and then they can negotiate with that property. That's the American way, I mean, right there. So if you want to look at the panels and, we pay you X amount of money, God bless you. But I think we all have to work together. And I'm still a little concerned on well use fees, and I know you're going to talk about it. But I grew up in Milan Township. We all know what happened in Milan Township. And that, to me, I know when they started pumping water over at Cabela's, when they were filling that pond, this whole city and Dundee smelled like sulfur for months. And there were wells that had dirt in it because they were running too much. So I'm concerned with the well usage, and I think everybody should be. And maybe there's nothing there, so then let's put that in. No well usage. And then the other item on is clear cutting. I'm concerned with clear cutting because we don't have a lot of trees left in Milan Township. I don't want to go up and see the woods clear cut over here and another woods clear cut over here for panels. And maybe that's not going to happen, but we need to address that so we cover ourselves and it doesn't. So all I'm saying is, if we work together,
15 seconds.
if we work together, I think something could come of this, but, right now, we're a little at odds at 50 feet, 75 feet, or 500. So that's all I have.
Thank you. Anybody else? Yes, sir.
I just have one quick question on the agenda here. Are you guys gonna be voting again on the motion that was failed at the last planning commission meeting that they're talking about because it was passed incorrectly? I wasn't here for the first part, so you already asked, I'm too sure. But I know, I forget exactly what the motion was that you guys passed at the last meeting, but the board couldn't vote on it that one because it was passed incorrectly, or they want to talk to a lawyer or something about it first.
The motion was passed at the last meeting was the motion recommending that the township board repeal the solar ordinance 13.27. And that motion was, that recommendation was sent to the township board for their review, for their action, and they decided to take no action at the last meeting.
So either meeting.
And so at the next meeting is up, which is next week from Thursday the 10th. It is on the agenda for that meeting, and they will decide what they want to do with it. They can either vote for it, we can reject it, or they can send it back to the planning commission for further review. At this time, I have not been given any direction about what they plan to do.
Okay, thank you.
Sharon, are you aware at all, looking back in the minutes, I suggested that we had the attorney review the motion to repeal in order to ensure that it is correct. Do we know, did Marty look at that?
Yes, he did look at that, and he revised some of the wording, and which I then sent to the township board.
Thank you.
Yes, back up.
For clarification, did he revise it after we voted on it, or was it?
On Wednesday. We made a motion on Tuesday, which said that I should send it to Marty for his review. And which I did. And then modified it, which was, we did not change it substantially. For example, we took out the reference to the date that it was approved. And otherwise, and that's why I then sent that to the township board.
So when you send it to the township, I mean, sorry, I don't know what the being processed right now, so. I guess, I think in order to make it as clean as possible, because I do, yes, we did send it with the expectation that it would be for review. I think for tracking purposes and for awareness, and that when those things get sent to the board, that there's either a note or something to the planning commission to say, these were the minor adjustments, or something along those lines. I just feel like, everybody deserves.
No, I agree, I should have CC'd you, the planning commission on the motion that I sent to the township board. And I can provide that to you. And
For clarity.
sure, I will,
Already
I have no problem with that.
love to make yourself.
Okay.
Sharon Worcester, Milan Township, and I was just wondering, when we were, this rescinding stuff is kind of getting really confusing. So, I was just wanted to go on record stating that Milan Township Board needs to give you guys more direction. They need to send back 13.27, excuse me, with the direction for the PC who needs to do a public hearing all over again, and we're waiting for 1329. Thank you.
I do know that we have asked our attorney to look at the process that we went through, and we have not heard back from him yet regarding his opinions.
All right, and we're looking into it too for you guys, just to help you guys out. All right, thank you.
Yes, sir.
So the only requirement is for a public hearing at the planning commission. There's
Correct.
not a requirement for a plan or for the board to have a public hearing.
Correct.
So what's the question to the attorney? Is the question that we met that obligation with that current format, or what's the question?
It was very vague about what the concern was at the township board. It was very vague what their concern was.
I think their concern is just that the board is required to have a topic once the planning commission has it.
Correct. Well, apparently, some people thought that the planning commission had inadequate public hearing. And so Marty has been asked, our lawyer, has been asked to review the documents and process that we went through, and to give his opinion about whether the process was inadequate or not. And like I said, we haven't heard back from him yet.
And we don't have any clarification as to what was inadequate.
No, I have not been informed of any opinions from anybody about what was inadequate about our process.
I could tell you. I did.
For clarification, so there was, I think, there was some comments made tonight about us keeping track of who said what and who in a public hearing. This may not be the best time, so I don't know if the better time to discuss it from a process standpoint is the end.
Well, since they brought up the public comment, one we can talk about right now.
So I guess I would like to make a recommendation that just in general, and since the red book is sitting here, I took an opportunity to read some of it. And specifically, the part that I believe we had a reference on keeping track of during public hearing of who and what. I really recommend we probably work to incorporate that.
Well, I had the audio tape of the meeting and.
Yeah, but I think this in general, I mean, the audio, the Zoom thing is the new, I realize it's the new kind of standard that's been instituted, but it's not necessarily a legal standard. It's just a nice thing that you guys, that the township does. I think that it would be, don't want to add more to the plate, that can help if you need, it's a lot, but just that we maybe a long-term procedure. And then also, one of the things that the Red Book does mention is that on a regular basis, that the township should have their legal counsel evaluate their meeting process. And, you know, after all of this is done, and just in the middle of all, that may not be a bad idea, just to kind of, or have the planner a part of that planning process in that conversation on Monday for them to evaluate. Didn't get a new supervisor, there's a lot going on. It may be a added activity that a planner could provide some updates, guidance.
Yes, and the planners that are, we need to do, I know one of them is extremely experienced. And, we will be, we will utilize them to the fullest extent possible. And because we have the audio recording, that the public hearing comments can be.
I agree, but there is. Yeah. I mean, by law, it's my understanding from what I recall, because I had to deal with this on another issue a long time ago, is that it's actually only case law. It's not actually, I don't think it's actually in the MCL that a public hearing has to list, that the meeting minutes have to include the name and their position. But it's, I believe it's highly recommended by township.
My understanding, it's, it should include what the comments were, not necessarily. I could be wrong.
According to his.
Any other public comments?
Start the meeting Monday again? For the planner?
4 o'clock. 4 o'clock in the afternoon. At the township hall.
Most people gotta work. Let's get back.
No,
So we don't get a chance to get to it.
it's a special meeting and it's being held at the convenience of the township board. And the people being interviewed.
A question for Colin. The 19th, where's that open house being held at?
Is there a question from the board?
No. So, any other public comments?
Can I ask just a quick question? Because you mentioned the meeting on Monday, is the entire planning commission invited to be there along with the board of trustees?
The planning commission has been invited to the meeting as a courtesy.
Okay. So my suggestion, because you mentioned on when to post it, this is a special meeting, it has to be posted 18 hours in advance. On the door and on the website, but make sure you post it as a joint meeting. Otherwise, the meeting will not be able to happen. So I'm just making sure it's done right, that way everything is, you know.
Thank you. As I mentioned before, that will be a special meeting, and there will be a public comment period. However, the public will not be allowed to ask questions of the applicants. Like Bob had mentioned, you can submit questions to our clerk, Barb Collins, prior to the meeting. I think 72 hours prior to the meeting. Okay. I guess someone else, very good. Okay. Okay, I've given everybody a copy of the PowerPoint presentation that Apex had provided at their open house, as well as maps of the project, and also the PowerPoint is I think they mentioned available on their website. Also, we have it available, I think, through Kevin, can provide the PowerPoint presentation that they provided, as well as copies of the maps at the Township Hall. So, okay. Okay. Last time that we were talking about the amendments to the ordinance, we had gotten up to section G setbacks. And I'm thinking that, okay. So the setbacks that we had sort of proposed. The paragraph basically says, in this ordinance, the setback distances are defined as the distance from the property line or the road right of way to the solar panels. The minimum setbacks are established for the following criteria: 75-foot setback along all road right of ways adjacent to properties with solar arrays. Setbacks along drains or railroad easements are to be consistent with Monroe County Drain Commission or railroad requirements. 300-foot setback from a non-participating residence. 75-foot setback from non-participating property line with a residence. 25-foot setback, 25 foot from non-participating property lines without a residence. Fencing and vegetation may be located in the setback areas. Setbacks from buildings and perimeter fencing on participating properties are at the discretion of the property owner. Okay. I guess one of the things, since we have the caveat that setback, no finish the discussion now, so if anybody wants to chime in. Since you have setbacks in the last bullet point, setbacks from buildings and perimeter fencing on participating properties are at the discretion of the property owner. Since we have that caveat, I'm thinking that if we would say 300-foot setback from all residences, and that way, if somebody wants to negotiate a something less, that's up, and you can do that. So in other words, it'd be from all houses, they would have a 300-foot setback. All houses, whether it's participating or non-participating. Obviously, if a participating person said, "Hey, I don't need that 300 feet," I can, negotiate it down to whatever they would prefer.
Okay.
I'm sorry. Are we on bullet point number 3 here? Is that what we're amending?
Oh, that's, yes, yes. Bullet point number 3, 300-foot setback from non-participating residents. I'm suggesting 300, I'm suggesting taking out non-participating, just saying all houses or all residences.
Didn't you just mention that? Or did I misunderstand you that if the participating residents wanted to run it to their back door, are you okay with that?
Yes. I mean, that's it's on their property.
So why would we want to take out non-participating residents? Wouldn't that include participating residents
Well,
and lump them into that 300?
we're basically, I'm saying, okay, 300 feet around all houses, that way everybody has the option at 300 feet, and but if they want, if they don't meet that, they don't care. And they want solar panels closer to their houses, they can negotiate, to a lower number.
And what I'm saying though, is in bullet point number 3, 300-foot setback from a non-participating residence, if you scratch non-participating, then that removes that property owner's.
No, I'm saying for all residences, all. So anybody who's nearby.
Okay, but you're saying 300 feet from all residences. But then you're also saying if you're a participating residence, you can run it up close. Am I completely missing something?
No, that's correct. Actually, even if you're not participating, you should be able to negotiate something different. You don't care.
So please say again what you'd like to see in bullet point 3.
300 feet setback from all houses.
Property line.
Yeah, we'll get to it.
From all houses.
There's a lot of bullet points here.
300 feet from all houses. Okay. Now. So that's standard. Now, if it's on my property, and I say, I don't care if it's 25 feet, 50 feet from my house. Because I'll get more money from Apex or whatever. Yeah, let's go for it.
But what I'm saying is that.
And you be the non-participant, my neighbor, let's say, you'd say, hey, I don't care either, it's, I don't mind looking at it, or, whatever, so it can be closer than, 300.
I guess the way I'm reading bullet point number 3, if we change it to 300-foot setback from all residences, then that does not allow a participating landowner to move it closer, because we said all houses 300 feet.
Right, but then in the last bullet point,
Okay.
we say setbacks from buildings and perimeter fencing on.
I don't think it does.
Right.
Because it says participating.
Right. So I think on the last bullet point, basically, setbacks, well, okay, the last bullet point basically, what I want is to allow landowners to be able to negotiate if they want something different.
So bullet point number 7 provides a caveat to bullet point number 3.
Right. Now, it's need to be reworded.
I would propose that before I feel comfortable voting on any of that, that it be valid in the plan.
Sure. So we'll have one on Wednesday.
You can't hear you.
We'll have, she wants a planner, before we finalize any of this, we need to have our planner run it by her. And by the way, both applicants are women. And which I totally agree with. That's-
You said this by Marty too.
And Mark, yes, Marty as well. Yes. That goes without saying.
Can you clarify, what does everyone think is 75-foot setbacks on all road right of ways adjacent to properties with solar arrays? So looking at this map. Does that mean, so looking at Home Road? This property here before. Plank Road, or, so is this the so the 75 feet is from the middle of Cone Road to that first solar panel?
No, it's from the road right away, which is, of Coleman Road, 66 feet from the center.
In the center? Yeah, I just want to clarify that.
So it's, so from the center of the road, it's actually,
So it's 141 feet,
right,
and that's to the nearest solar panel.
correct. Normally setbacks are measured to whatever structures are on the property, such as a barn or a garage or a house, from the road right of way or the property line. That's what setbacks normally are measured to. However, because we aren't talking about buildings, we're talking about solar panels. That's why, we define the setback distance to the solar panels.
John, can you clarify the difference between various road setbacks? What road has 32 foot right away versus 66?
Example, Welch Road or Far Road or Wells Road, I believe they all have 33-foot setbacks. Road right of ways, I'm sorry. Ann Arbor Road, Cone Road, Wabash, I believe are 66 feet.
No, Ann Arbor Road is
132?
Yeah, Class A road.
Excellent. Thank you. Thank you. So.
Home road is not, but it's at least 66 feet wide.
Right, Cone Road is at least 66. Ann Arbor is 132, you said?
132.
Okay, 132 for Ann Arbor.
Everything else is 30 feet.
Like the dirt roads that we have. That's measured from the center line to the side. And that's the road right away, in which you can plant, which you can't put any kind of structures. So that's why, so we have 75 feet from all road right of ways. So wherever we have a road that has along where solar panels are, they would have to be 75 feet back from the road right of way. Now, you have to remember that wherever we have houses or residences, we will be having trees to screen the solar panels.
So,
Yes.
so on the 25 feet from non-participating property lines without a residence,
The farm fields.
that with screening,
We probably wouldn't be streaming along that property line. If there's no houses there, it wouldn't be a stream.
don't we require it? Because that's all it is.
The perimeter of a large, I'm reading it from the screening paragraph, second paragraph. The perimeter of a large solar energy system shall also be screened and buffered by installed evergreen or non-invasive vegetative plantings whenever existing natural vegetation does not otherwise reasonably obscure the large solar energy system from adjacent residential structures subject to the discretion of the township board with the following requirements. So in other words, adjacent residential structures. In other words, if it's, for example, if there aren't any houses along the road, there wouldn't be a requirement for trees. Screening is this basically says screening is required to screen people's view. And driving.
I mean, I think that there's issues with roads.
Yes.
Question, on data point 3, the 300 setback from all houses, and data point 4 is 75-foot setback from non-participating property line with the residents. What's the difference between data point 3 and data point 4?
I believe what's saying that is that if there's a residence that has a larger piece of acreage that, as long as the solar panels are not within 75 feet, or are within 300 feet of that particular residence, that they can come within 75 feet of that particular property line.
Correct. In other words, your house might be more than 300 feet from the solar panels, but your property line, so therefore, and this basically says that they then can only come up to 70, they have to be 75 feet from your property line, even though your house is 500 feet from the solar panels. In other words, it establishes.
Where does this come from? Where did we copy this from another zoning ordinance, or where does this wording, where did that come from? Who did that? Who sat down there and decided this is what it's gonna be?
We discussed it a few months ago, and it was basically came out of that discussion with the caveat that, you know, it wasn't a final. We can make it what we can change this to whatever we end up deciding. So I mean, you know, it's
I think those are also path of lines, the recommended setbacks. Some of these are the recommended setbacks in that planning book that Michigan State had.
yes.
And
Now, the 300-foot setback from the residence is from what Apex has offered. You know, that's what that is. But the 75 foot and the, basically is what we originally had. 75. Originally, we had 50-foot setback from all property boundaries and road driveways. That was the original one, and 75 foot from adjacent to any residential structures. So so in other words, right now, this basically says that for property lines, it's 75-foot setback. However, if you happen to have a house that is, you know, closer than 300, closer than 225 feet to the property line, you know, then it would be.
I know what you're saying, but it needs to be more descriptive in that. You know, to me, it's left way over interpretation.
I have no problems with writing this, you know.
All right.
I'm open, you know, to,
So is there a, for point of clarification, is there a motion on the table or?
no, there's no motion. We're just, this is basically a discussion of this, setbacks, trying to decide, okay, what are our ideas, and what do we want to, see, you know, what do we want to finalize? And, okay, first of all, the 75 feet along the roads. Is that reasonable?
I can agree to less of a setback along the road if the roads are extreme. It's roads. I mean, at that point, let's screen it. I mean, these people don't want to drive around and look at it. That's very clear. No, the trees, I don't need it, I don't want it. I mean, you know, we talk a lot about property rights, and I've heard some compelling arguments on both sides tonight over the last 2 years. I don't think these setbacks are representative of property rights of those who are not participating. And I'm so about property rights that you can sign away whatever you want. I don't think that these ordinances should be so prescriptive that they prevent non-participating owners from working and negotiating with participating landowners and any developers. So, you know, as far as the roads go, you know, I think it's very clear, we don't want this township to look like a solar field. We don't want to going back and forth to work and church and school and grocery shopping to look at these. I think the roads should be screened. You know, I'll go 75 feet on the roads if they're screened. And we can talk about screening. That's a whole other issue that I think is not going to be easily stand this thing. Same thing with property. You know, I think we have to empower neighbors to work together along with the developer to negotiate what the best solution of everybody. And I've been to solar fields, I've seen and heard solar fields, and having them that close to residents, to even property line, 75 feet, and lower point number of folks, inadequate. And again, I would love to see what the planner had to say.
Oh, sure, we have to sort of have.
Okay, so number
Number
4, 300 foot setback and not participating property line with the caveat that they can be reduced down to as little, I don't care. The thing is, if you feel like it's not going to devalue your property, go on, property line. If you feel like it is going to devalue your property, you have some rights now. And those need to be codified with the ordinance. The last time this came up, I said 300 feet with the possibility of negotiating settlement. Stand by that.
So you're suggesting 300 feet from non-participating property line.
How did that just get merged in, or from your perspective now? So instead, it would just get merged into the 300 foot setback for. Because it just automatically.
Yes, sir. Yeah, number 3 would go away.
I mean, I know we keep putting this emphasis on the residents, but this is people's property. That's not, they deserve to enjoy it. If somehow, here's the developer has determined that 300 feet is a good distance to stay away from residents. Spend the majority of your time probably in the residence, but you're entitled to enjoyment of the property whenever, where. And again, I'm not mandating it, I'm trying to find that common ground.
Now, okay, question. Are you, now, you have a 28 parcel, and you have a house on 5 acres. So, and back, property line is 1,000 feet away
From your house.
from your house. So then you're saying that basically you still need a 300-foot setback.
That's what I'm saying. And, yeah, no, and that's fine.
Because there's a lot, a lot of parcels, that, your house is in one section, and you got a lot of property line that is basically,
I mean, I don't know personally, if it was me, I might be willing to work with the neighbors and the developer to bring it closer. My concern, and I told you this on the phone the other day, my concern is gonna be noise. If you can if you want to try to move it closer, we can work something out as long as I don't hear it. And I know the people said that they don't make any noise. Somebody's got a brand new acre solar field right next to them, and they never hear it. I've been to solar fields, my friend. I express that to the developer, I express that to anybody who wants to talk.
now what about farm fields?
Same thing. That non-participating farmer has a right. Now, I don't know too many farmers who go for nature walks. When they go out and check their crops, do soil tests, check drain tile, whatever farmer does on a daily basis on the field. They may or may not care about the noise or seeing it. So they may, if it's just a working field, they may be like, yeah, let's let it come in closer. I again, at the same time, I remember a year and a half ago, talking to at least 2 people who were like, well, I want to build a house there. The farmer, this township has a long history of farmers in particular, but I think landowners breaking off chunks of ground for their kids. And that 300 feet allows them to, and I've said this before, we're valuing a current house more than a future house. Well, if that farmer's had that land in his family for generations, they want to keep the kids and grandkids on that land, and they want to let them build a house down the line. I think that needs to be valued and protected as well.
I guess if there's a motion or if there's a
There's no
discussion,
motion, we just discussion.
um,
I'm writing down.
I guess I would support it pending, yeah. And I specifically the lawyer and the planner on the setbacks, and basically because we're kind of almost referencing individual negotiations. And so how we will track those could get complicated and
Well, what have to happen is that there's a site plan review. These changes or negotiations that might occur would have to be documented.
yeah, I get the
Because
process.
obviously, it's something that would have to be noted in the site plan, because otherwise somebody would say, oh, wait a minute, the site plan said, it shows it as being only 25 feet, but the requirement is 300 feet.
I'm not sure, I get that. I think that the negotiation is, we're almost then getting into negotiations with the private.
Apex would have to give us a copy.
I don't care about Apex, I'm just saying, just
That
in,
from the landlord that says, okay, we all agree to, we requested. 25.
the, yes, there's that. But I think legally having, Marty or the planner's evaluation of, what commitments and, I mean, there may be subjecting ourselves to other issues.
Commitments.
I just don't know, God, I literally can't imagine, because I just feel as if, I mean, I'm fine with it for the most part, it's just that there could be future, it's complicated, it's a lot of property value, it's a lot of property line, it's all new renegotiation, et cetera, and I just, I would literally be projecting, what those potential issues are.
Okay. So basically, what you're saying is that you're concerned that us allowing property owners to negotiate a lower setback in their, for their property, or it would be something that might be not allowed, or
No, not at all. I think the massive is just that to allow property, it gives some power back to property owners. I'm talking about the overall project of, people living out, other things. I just can't even imagine the added complication to it. And so therefore, when you add complication to the variety of contracts, variety of issues, and then waiting for us to get a site plan. Just think that last bullet point needs to be a lot more clear about participating properties, non-participating properties, discretion. I think that there's value in it, but it needs to be much tighter.
oh, I agree. Setbacks. Basically, we're saying that setbacks from property lines are negotiable. Whether they're from participating or non-participating people. And yes, I agree that a lawyer needs to look at the language of that.
And should we write something preliminary
Yes,
to kind of express?
I just wrote down setbacks may be negotiated to a lesser amount for
With a written agreement between the participating landowner / developer and the adjoining non-participating property owner.
yes. Even though I haven't been working with you guys can fight, you can say whatever you want.
I know.
Bob and Pat, I mean, what are your guys' thoughts on that?
Well, I'm with both you and Rebecca on that, but we have to get a planner involved and a lawyer.
At least to look at this stuff.
Okay. What I can do is, I can have, the planner will have reviewed this, provide recommendations for our next meeting. Yes.
Can we? So I don't know if I'm gonna be able to participate on Monday, but, so, there's that, but, before they evaluate our ordinance, and then come to our meeting and provide recommendations, can we kind of do, get to know each other situation where, you know, like, it's not where, what our expectations are, kind of a conversation about some stuff. I mean, this is like a marriage. It's kind of like, I don't need evaluation before they meet me. So, or, it's just, I think this is what got us into this issue before when we had the planner, where they came in, sort of did some, they talked to you about it on email. I just really think that, that there should be an initial meeting, where we walk the planner through what our current situation is. I mean, you've done a lot of work here, but they don't have the context for where each of us fall in these categories, what we're all thinking. You know, a planner comes in and they're gonna look at it completely from, is this legal or is this not legal? What are your parameters for doing things, et cetera, et cetera. They don't have context. And I think I would recommend us spending some time with them to go over the context.
Would you, be agreeable to a meet and greet on Tuesday?
Next week.
Right, which is election day, but that doesn't, only can be, as long as you don't have 3 people together, so to speak.
I mean, what's the hurry?
Well, because you'd like to have her on board for Wednesday meeting.
For Wednesday.
Next Tuesday is election day. We can't have our meeting on election day. So, but we're required to have our meeting next business day.
Why can't we just make it on Wednesday? I
We can do
mean,
that.
because literally, he or she, if they get
Right.
hired, are you guys gonna, they get hired on Monday, 48 hours to do a full evaluation of our ordinance? And then
Well,
like,
both planners have seen our ordinance.
Still.
I just don't see the point of like, let's take our time. We've been taking our time already. Go through kind of. Because they're gonna look at this and, okay, flush your notes, and then still not have context. So that would be my recommendation, is that when the planner, if they can participate in Wednesday's meeting. Because we still don't know that yet, do we?
Not. Sorry.
I would, and again, I'm sorry, I stepped out. I think I'm agreeing with what you just said. If we're gonna meet on Wednesday, can we just stick with the campground stuff? And let this solar stuff percolate and get more planning with it?
Right.
I'm guessing we're not gonna need too much hand holding.
Right.
Campground stuff. obviously, we need more assistance with this.
Okay. Yes.
My concern is, like right now, we shouldn't even be talking about this or discussing this. This is what we're discussing. I don't know how this, our discussion is gonna get to the plan. The plan should be. I don't like the way things have been going where be prompt and getting this done as prompt as that they get an email, they reply back to you, and then you relay it to us. I don't like that. They should be here while we're all discussing this and hear every point of view.
Mhm.
And
Not just what we
Start-
discussed, and then you write down whatever you want to write, give it to them, and then it comes back, and that just causes more confusion, in my opinion.
And starting on Wednesday, that's exactly what's going to happen.
Okay, I just.
For each of our meetings, from then on, the only reason that's been going that way, I've had to do that is because we haven't had one. But on the other hand,
It happens with the lawyer. You'll discuss something with the lawyer and get back with this, and it's not a direct conversation with all of us.
on the other hand, we also need to try to get some ideas about what we each are thinking, because, otherwise none of us are really thinking about it until now.
John, I mean, again, maybe I'm naive, I've never really sat down and worked with a planner in my years on this commission. But it sounds like we would just have to have this conversation again for their benefit.
Mhm.
So before we move on, can we go over back to the calendar? Sure. So just to clarify, then, we're gonna have a meeting on November 8th.
Right.
This week. And then the intent
and
is
that will be
to have a public hearing for the beach.
Public hearing to allow camping in C1 district.
And then,
And also to change Article 10, the special use process.
and then potentially have the planner there. And then the first or second week of December.
So that's the 9th, and then normally we would be having the 22nd.
Normally, or
Well,
The new normal.
per our, what we've been doing. And yes, the 22nd.
So, but then after that, okay, so and then December,
6th. The reason for December 6th was the first Tuesday from December is because, okay, assuming that campground is approved for C1, then we need, and the special use approval has been approved, changes and in the township board at their Thursday meeting. Then we need to process the application, the request for a special use approval from Gateway Bay for their camping. And so that will be done in December. Now, due to the calendar, December 6th is December 8th is the township board meeting. And the way the calendar is, our normal meeting will be the 13th. Which we did, so what I'm hoping for is that since December 6th is 2 weeks after the 22nd, that we would have our public hearing for the special use approval on December 6th. for giveaway day. That way, then it can go to the township board for their December 8th meeting.
And then after that, we aren't gonna have a December 13th meeting.
No, we don't have to.
But we're for sure not gonna have a December 27th meeting. So
December 27th, actually. I mean, Matt's got the week off.
And then the board, next board meeting would be January 10th, I believe.
12th.
Can I recall? And it's probably the board meeting that they'll, correct me, Bob, if I'm wrong, that's the board meeting that you would be considering the moratorium extension.
I believe so.
And then what's the, and then there's 45 days for the next supervisor to be appointed. Is that what it is?
I don't, well, from, it's 45 days from the time of Phil's passing that they have to appoint somebody to supervisor. So whether, I don't know what their plans are. They can appoint somebody at their Thursday meeting. I don't know,
John, for my benefit, and maybe some other people here, if the board cannot reach a decision on an appointment, what happens? And Bob, maybe.
What was that?
if the board can decide within 45 days on somebody to be supervisor.
And it goes to the next general election.
And you just operate without a supervisor during that time?
Well, we find a way to make do.
Okay. Kevin,
Well, is that what statute said, or is that what you said?
There would be a special election in the spring.
Thank you.
And that's the earliest would be May.
Right.
Yeah, that's if we didn't appoint somebody.
So I guess, like, if we were to have, all of a sudden, this planner is amazing and provides a massive amount of clarity for all of us. It's not gonna happen. But, so the best day, the earliest, we could even have a public hearing, because we would have to have, so the board votes to rescind at the next meeting. We put forward they rescind, say they rescind, and we have, actually, it doesn't matter if they rescind or they don't rescind, we have to have a public hearing on our amended ordinances,
Right.
amended solar ordinance 1327, or we have a new ordinance
Right.
1330 or
Right.
whatever. What's the earliest date we could have a public hearing on that with this current calendar?
At the rate we're going, February. Now, or, I mean, technically, we could have, but, with this calendar, and we're only talking, how many meetings, for the planning commission, until the end of the year? 2? So no way that we're going to get anything done. So, like I said, February, because we're not gonna have it in January, unless we have it before the 9th of January. Because after the 9th, I'm not gonna be here,
When are you leaving?
the 9th of January. For 3 weeks. I'm going to Hawaii.
I'm just trying to provide like what the board plans on doing
Not that
as far
the
as.
planning commission could have meetings without me, but.
I guess it just is helpful for context for all of us about what do we feel is if our next steps and planning ourselves on whether it's making recommendations to extend moratoriums, making recommendations to rescind, et cetera, because the longer we go without a rescinded ordinance, I frankly, to your point last week, so they will have, if we create a new ordinance and say our ordinance is not industrial only, the public would have 7 days to issue a
Request a referendum.
request a referendum, thank you. That referendum would then go at the earliest, maybe the May election. I don't even know if they could make the May election. Most likely it would be the August election, based on how quickly we're getting this done. And then if we aren't asked to rescind it, I'm somewhat talking on myself. If we aren't asked to rescind it and it stays an amendment on 1327, they can referendum those amendments, correct?
Which would be kind of pointless because amendments are there, everybody's benefit.
Potentially. Okay. So I guess if the board votes to rescind, we're literally gonna work our butts off, hire a planner, spend all the money to do that, do all of the things that we're doing for what is clearly a referendum that would pass pretty easily. I mean, and that's an assumption, I realize that. But,
Maybe it would, maybe it wouldn't, I don't know. No,
well, John, I mean,
it probably would, it probably would, the ordinance probably would be rejected, I mean, that's, that'd be a good bet.
so I guess I just want to lay that all out there. So as a planner who likes to plan, or kind of have a reason for doing things. I mean, does everybody kind of agree that that's the stage we're in? And then without knowing who gets appointed or if anyone does get appointed and then possibly elected. I mean, right now we know, we have a decent sense that the board is split 2-2. We now have this other contingency that we don't know where the board's gonna go.
Right.
And so,
Yeah, but should that guide our decision? It's not up to us, it's up to the board. We should not worry about how they vote. We should worry about how we vote.
And things we decide.
Just the ordinance.
yes, I agree. However, I also, am close to a volunteer, not quite, but if we're going to literally spend every 2 weeks working on an ordinance that will get a referendum and just go and not pass, do industrial only, or do, just quickly throw something out there so it can go to referendum. I mean, I literally, at this point, that's the only kind of path forward that I see without knowing, and to your point, Bob, yes, we do vote on certain things based on, you know, our own personal beliefs and our own research. We're faced with a situation where we don't know who the board's going to be. We don't have direction. It's not a matter of we serve at the
No, we don't have
board, the pleasure of the board.
But we won't. And how they vote.
I
is
know,
not
that's
our
my point.
concern- Not our concern how they vote.
We don't-
I mean, are you trying to game the various people, trying to decide whether they're for us or against us?
First of all,
Or do you
that's
rather hope that they all just think about it being fair?
I believe that was a lead-in question that was slightly offensive. So I just, all I'm saying is that there's a few obvious things that are kind of a challenge for all of us.
Well, we can fix that. We're looking for a supervisor.
I don't know what that means.
How about you?
Um,
I mean, I don't know. But I think you're gonna find a supervisor, actually.
Thank you, Bob, that's very nice of you, but, so I guess I just wanted to talk that out loud for all of our purposes, because, you know, it's not, it's, I think it's just, this is a lot of effort, and there's a lot of hard feelings going round and round, and the only thing that we've got left is our credibility, and I just hopefully keep that intact for each of us. And so making sure that we're not just doing things to do things, just or having the appearance that we're just doing things. Because you work really hard, John.
Well,
And I just want to make sure that we're all as effective. So, Mike,
the only thing I have to say is that if the ordinance does get rescinded, and I don't think that a vote will be made on rescinding it until after a supervisor is appointed. Which I anticipate will be probably, which will not happen until December at the earliest. We'll vote to, on the motion. Because I'd be surprised if the board doesn't want to wait until they have a 5-person board. Maybe I could be wrong. You might want to vote next week as a 4-person board. That very well could happen. But like I said, if they vote to rescind it, then we are, I would have to say, really under the gun to get this ordinance done, because we have no ordinance, and we don't want to get into a situation in which the moratorium is not extended, or if it is, or there might be some legal issues with extending it. I don't know. So.
I had a conversation with the attorney earlier this week about the nuances of a permissive ordinance. And I do think that
Permissive ordinance, I don't know what that is.
that's the kind of type of how he described our ordinance. He said it's I don't know if that's a legal term, that's his terminology. That would just be in the calls I'm thinking on what you call it right now. Because of the fact that you have an ag one, this is what you're allowed to do, this is what you're not allowed to do.
Okay.
This is industrial, this is what you're allowed to do, this is what you're not allowed to do. So it's a clear permissive type of ordinance. And so legally, and I want to be really careful because I'm repeating what you said and I'm not repeating it verbatim, is that legally we've already set the precedent that it's a permissive ordinance. So therefore, us not having an ordinance is not as complicated or
Detrimental.
yes, as we've previously discussed. So
As if we've never had one in the first place.
yeah, I mean, at least that's his, again, I want to be careful because I'm not an attorney. He was very clear that that's kind of his opinion of it. I know there's other opinions that are different than that, and I do believe the planner, when we had him, did express something slightly different. So anyways, it's just, it's just so challenging because there's so much contradiction here. That I don't expect it to be a clean process, but, or totally clean, but, before moving forward, before we start getting into us making an amendment or, you know, motions on setbacks, starting to get down into the nitty gritty and the nuances of the size of trees and whether they're trimmed or not trimmed or whatever. But God knows we haven't even touched the community benefit issue. From that perspective, so I would anticipate May at the earliest to even where the ordinance would even be ready. But I don't know, but
We haven't even got into limiting how much of our township is gonna be allowed to have solar. How to go about that. That's another issue that I'm with for a planner and a lawyer. That we need to discuss. It has to be settled.
Okay, well. Apparently that's what we'll be getting into then. I think that, we started beating this to death today. So we're good. Okay, well.
well, actually, I mean, I appreciate getting the clarity and that we all kind of agree sort of on a timeline and that it's being publicly discussed for everyone else's edification purposes, because it provide, and for the public, it kind of provides, I also want to provide them some parameters as to what their expectations are as far as public meetings, what the, you know, what a planner does, what their role is, because I think for the public to, having worked with planners over the years, it's challenging for the public to hear things through a planner's verbiage. And that's because it's very black and white, it's very matter of fact, and it's and they aren't elected officials or community members, so they tend to
Sounds good. I think that, our next meeting, next Wednesday, should, once we, go through the public hearings for the two, issues, we can have a extensive discussion with our planner. Right, she's there, of course, to, basically let her know where we all, what our feelings are. And then we can go proceed from there. And the characterization of May is not that far off. Possible. But let's see. So. Anybody else have anything else to say? Because I'm so done.
Good plan.
Okay, I think, public comment time. 5 minutes. Yes, sir.
Earlier, in the discussion about the setback, I've heard references about sizable parcels, 20 acres in a house being 1,000, etc. This is a serious invite / request to the planning commission. Would you please come visit me at my home on Petersburg Road? I live on 1 acre. This industrial solar complex will surround me on 3 sides. I will be immersed in this industrial project. 1 acre. I've lived there 22 years. I'd like to continue to live there. Again, I understand individual property rights. I have them too. I think it would serve you well to stop by. Seriously, I'd love to walk you my property. I love to walk my little property. I do it every day. So there's a cup of coffee for you so that you can get that in-person, realistic, real-world information and view for yourselves. My view. I'm one of those people that's going to be tremendously impacted by this. I really appreciate it. The minimum drive by, but there's a wonderful warm cup of coffee waiting for you. Incidentally, again, the other communities have already set the precedents. They've already done the heavy lifting. I would ask you and encourage you to look to LaSalle and the other communities in county for your examples and your information for recommended setbacks, not necessarily apex. Again, LaSalle not only has the 500 foot from the property line, but they also have the barring property being like mine, being bordered on 3 sides. This just isn't going to work, folks. It's just not just for me, for this entire community. The sensible thing to do is welcome this industrial complex, welcome it properly, industrial only, the 500 foot setbacks from the property line. For your consideration.
Yes, sir.
Brendan Miller, once again, Land Liberty Coalition, and just to clarify, as I said previously, I'm speaking on behalf of some of the landowners who are involved in the project, protecting the farmers. I just wanted to say a couple of things. One, on the 300 foot setback, I understand what you're going for on that. Believe it or not, I don't not believe setbacks. I think setbacks are a necessary part of planning. That's how it's supposed to be. You're supposed to protect the safety, welfare, and health of the residents of the community. That's what planning commission is set up to do. Keep in mind though, when you put a 300 foot setback in, you're not necessarily killing the project. All you're doing, or even 500 feet setbacks, you're enlarging the project to a bigger area. The bigger the setback, the more it's got to be expanded across the township. So instead of making a concise, consolidated project, you make a larger project ultimately defeating the purpose that you're trying to do by not allowing the project to expand across your entire township. So consider that when you make your setbacks. The other thing I just wanted to point out is the previous speaker was right. LaSalle did put in place massive setbacks, and it's because of places like LaSalle that Joe Bellino's talking the way he's talking. And I'm just going to warn you guys right now, there will be a time when the state starts to come down on townships and they will start to impose their own setbacks like they did with the gravel pits. So I would recommend this. I tell this to every township I go to, every landowner I talk to. Townships should set reasonable ordinances, get these things set up now under your reasonable setbacks before the state comes in and begins to impose massive undercut setbacks. I don't know if I can answer any questions from here.
Yes.
So if the state comes in and does eminent domain, where's Land and Liberty going to be on that?
I'll tell you where I'm at on this.
Where's Land and Liberty?
No.
I can't speak for the entire, I can't speak for the entire organization
Well, I
yet.
just would
But I will say
recommend
this, we are
I have
100.
my final
Okay.
question.
Yes, go ahead.
I would recommend that your argument be a little bit more consistent, because you literally just said that you believe in property rights, but you believe that the
We
state.
are 100% opposed to eminent domain, if that's what you're at.
Okay, well, that's pretty much what you just
The
described.
only reason we support projects like this is because it's landowners who are choosing to do this on their
But
own.
how is the state going to come in and demand this? Everyone's throwing out eminent domain.
No, it's not eminent
Like,
domain.
this is-
You're misunderstanding. It's not eminent domain. Here's how it works. I don't know if you've seen what they did with the gravel pits. It's not eminent domain. What they did with the gravel pits is there was land that the gravel pits owned that townships were not allowing to be developed because they're making massive setbacks. So what the state did is the state came in and now they cite the projects. So it's not eminent domain, it's them coming into townships to say, hey, we're gonna make the rules now, your setback is X. No choice, we're permitting it here, the planning commission doesn't permit, the state permits. That's what happens in other states too. Ohio, Ohio, Wisconsin, and Minnesota all have state-based siting. I am against state-based siting. I think you guys should be able to permit and site these projects, not the state. But when you have places like LaSalle and places like Riga and Deerfield, down south you guys in Lenway, it's gonna make a position where the utilities are gonna come in and they're gonna demand state siting like the other states. I don't wanna see that happen. I don't believe in that. I believe in local zoning. I believe that you guys should make the decisions and that the local farmers who have the land should be allowed to make those decisions. I do not agree with them in domain no 100%.
But you believe in the state coming in and.
No, I'm opposed to that too. I think you guys should make the decisions, not the state.
Okay.
That's what I
Just
believe.
need to cut, but this,
Yes, no, I believe that local planning commissions, I'm a conservative, I believe in local control. You guys, planning commissions should be making decisions. And if decisions aren't made rationally and responsibly, that's when the state comes in with the lobby and everything else and changes things. I don't want to see that happen. The last thing I'll say is on the sound issue. The only thing on solar panels that make sound are the inverters. That's why it's important that you guys make the decisions during the special use permit, where you guys can talk to developers, look at the blueprints, make sure inverters are not near homes. Because that's what makes the sounds on those solar projects. Once again, I am full in control of local control. That's why there has to be reasonable and reasonably made rules in order to not allow the state to come in and make what I would consider unreasonable rules at the Lansing level. Thank you.
Yes, ma'am.
Robin Hay from Denison Road. To what this fellow here just said, as far as setbacks, I obviously know what side he stands on. And then also, when you are talking about setbacks, you're not talking about people, you're talking about your property, not their property. Because it affects you in your wallet, it affects them visually and their property value. And that's what it all comes down to, it's your wallet. All the people that signed all those petitions are the people that reside in this township, that drive down these country roads every day and bought their homes up here because they enjoy the beautiful country view, the animals, the scenery, the whole nine yards. John, why did you buy your home in the country?
It's all in the country.
But you're filling it up with all this metal crap. I don't want to live in the city. I moved way out of the city. And it will affect our community. It will affect our property values. And there's a reason why these folks have a 30-year contract. Because they knew if there is less of a contract, there are a whole bunch of people that be backing out. They're gonna make you be obligated to fulfill that contract. There's very few people that say, hey, I want you to sign this contract. Oh, yeah, by the way, it's 30 years. I mean, heck, you can buy a house and it's less than 30 years. But they want you to sign your contract on your land for 30 years. There's a reason for that. And if they're all up front, it wouldn't even have to be a contract. They could have it year by year and it'd be no problem. But they're telling you everything as they are. And the idea that they said initially, if I understand right, 500 feet. And then you recommended 300 feet. You said, hey, no problem. That's ludicrous. Anybody that lives anywhere around you will not want to be there. And if your children and grandchildren reside in the house that you're in, they will not want to raise their family there either. I know in your heart that you know it comes down to greed. We are all for solar. I don't think there's a person in this room that does not want solar. We just want it in the industrial area where it's set for. That's why it's called industrial. That's where you put your buildings, your metal structures. You put trees, crops, and farms in the country. I want to land site. I want to drive down Cone Road and see these solar panels on my way to work. When I finally get off the highway, I want to see the beautiful countryside. I want to enjoy my ride. I want to meander the home the rest of the way. I don't want to say, oh, frick, I can't wait to get off this road because all this shit on the side of the road. I don't want to feel that way in my community. I can't believe any one of you guys would feel that way. And I understand the value of saying, I'm gonna make a bunch of money on this. That's true. It's just like the guy who wanted to earn quick, but you'll still make your money on your property. If you're sharecropping it or cropping it, you may not make as much as fast, but you may make it in a better way that you can sleep sound at night, and the whole community would like to welcome you into the community. Just some thoughts.
Thank you.
Yes, sir.
Number one, I'd like to say thank you to all you guys. I know this is a tough project. It's not easy to deal with. We have a lot of people wanting to go against this project. We got a lot of people wanting to go for the project. One thing I want to say is whatever we as a community, not the state, not Mr. Bellino, he's not in our township, doesn't belong in our township. This is our township. I mean no disrespect for anybody here, either for or against. Apex is a corporation. Whatever we decide, it's not going to be this Apex that makes the changes in the future. It might be a different Apex, a different company, a corporation that comes in. I doubt that you're a corporate officer. You may be, I don't know. But those are the people who are going to make the decisions. So whatever setbacks or whatever rules and regulations we as a community decide, that's going to determine what happens for future projects. So when you make these setbacks, make them something that's set. I agree with that man over there as far as that goes. We have to set some type of rules and regulations. We have to do that. And this is for our kids, for our grandkids, for our neighbors. We have to protect everyone. Those that are for it, those that are against it. We have to all come together, think this through, and we have to get together as a community, not as somebody being threatened by the state or other communities. This is our community. We're the ones that should make our decisions. Future homeowners may want to make changes to the property. So whatever guidelines we make are going to determine what they can and cannot do on their property if they butt up to whatever it is, solar or whatever. So whatever guidelines and setups, setbacks and all that, it's going to determine what they can and cannot do on their property. You have to remember that. If they want to build something else on their property, now they're going to have a conflict. Just remember that if Apex in this particular situation is your friend, or Mr. Bellino is your friend, or whomever is your friend, they may not be on this next project. We have to remember that. It's not just today that we should think about. It's tomorrow's project. We have to set up the guidelines that makes it right for everyone, because this is going to change our community no matter which side of this conflict you're on, because it is a conflict at this point. Got a lot of people that are mad about this. And we shouldn't be mad at our neighbors, no matter what they feel, whether it be pro or against. These are our neighbors. These should be our friends. And this is the way we need to look at this. Therefore, these guidelines need to be set up so that there aren't conflicts in the future. These are hard fought right now. Hopefully, tomorrow we have this all set up and nobody's going to be hurt by it in the future. We have a guy that's going to be surrounded by things. I wouldn't want to do that. We have to consider those things, no matter what Mr. Bolino thinks. And Mr. Bolino can be voted out. Thank you.
Yes, sir.
Just a few things real quick. First off, November 8th is election day. So the most important thing that day would be to vote to make sure that people at Torrance are in office, to make sure that someone is coming within our domain to take property from this township as well, or stand rights, whatever the way you put it. Also, the only I've noticed at Tony's meeting now for about 3 months or 2 months or so is that I've yet to come to one meeting where sitting board has been here at every single meeting, or all of them have been here once. And I've seen Barb here a lot, and Mrs. Manick here a lot as well. But not the whole board here watching this. This is a big issue. I think we should definitely be trying to pull them into these meetings as well, to get them involved, because there's a lot of issues being made here. Oh, sorry, Bob, too, I'm sorry. But then also as well, adding to the planner list, I made a comment at the board meeting as well. I think it's super important to get a lawyer here, even if he's firing our current lawyer. Because I'm coming here now for 2 or 3 months and I haven't seen a lawyer once. So I think we should definitely either get a new one or just force him to be here. I don't know what law firm he's with or whatnot, but I think it's very unprofessional after 3 months of these kind of questions to not show up at one time, even if this only happened to be at the time. And then also online right now, it still says next Tuesday for a meeting on the website. Thank you.
Thank you. I'll check into that.
Yes, ma'am.
Hi again. There's a few different things that I wanted to address. Regarding the table of permitted uses, the campground, that special use from Getaway Bay. Please, please, please do this in the correct order, because if you send the table of permitted uses to the board and the board approves it for the commercial, that means that your applicant can turn in an application and it will go under the current ordinance. So even if you change it, it doesn't matter. So make sure that you review that ordinance to make sure that it's going to protect the residents, protect the property owner, all of it. Because I don't feel that currently your camping ordinance doesn't even cover a full page. And if you're going to start expanding it, I think that maybe it should be looked at again, because it probably hasn't been looked at a lot. So that should go first before the board accepts the camping and seaboard. And also the application that it's in the minutes from the last meeting. It was supposed to be the last public hearing that didn't take place because it got so late. Actually, I feel kind of like an idiot because I didn't realize this sooner. That application is null and void. You don't have an ordinance for camping in commercial, therefore somebody can't apply for a special use for that. So once you guys get everything all together, you're camping, and then the board approves the commercial use of that, then your applicant can apply. Another thing is regarding the repeal ordinance for the current solar ordinance 13.27. The repeal ordinance is 13.29. I understand John's point of view that, the board didn't really take any action. They didn't send it back. They just kind of removed it. They should have said, hey, we got to send this back because you need a proper public hearing for it, because the wording was not correct, which I did bring to the board last week. I don't know if all of you saw the meeting or not. And as for your setbacks for the solar, I think if you're going to say that, yes, the property owners can, figure this out for themselves, you're setting a precedent for all of your other ordinances. So if somebody goes to their neighbor and says, hey, I want to build a pole barn right on my property line. Again, you're setting a precedence, and you're going to be getting a lot of residents who are going to push that envelope. And I really think that you really need to think about not allowing that in the solar ordinance, because it's going to damage future residents too. Because those people might not stay here forever. So then, yeah, those people are choosing their home, they see that it's there, but it could still cause a lot of problems, I think, down the line. And one last thing was, Rebecca mentioned it about filling the vacancy, page 93 of the red book. It doesn't wait until the next general election. If the board does not appoint somebody within 45 days, then the county clerk has to, within 5 days, call a special election. So then it would go to, in this case, it would go to the May election if they don't put anybody in. So it wouldn't go to the next general election, which would be November.
Oh, that's what Rebecca said, May. She mentioned that.
Oh, I
Yeah,
didn't hear you.
I
heard
I
about
told
the
them.
general election, so I just wanted to.
I thought it.
Thank you.
Anybody else? Anybody want to say anything to the board?
I got,
No? Okay.
this is just this is a note, and this is a mixture of. I read an article today, it's very good reading. And it was in the Guardian, it says, it's got nasty out here. The battle to build US's biggest solar power farm. It's in Indiana, Pulaski County. It says the community turns on itself. I don't think we want that here. I've been in Milan Township since 1987. I enjoy being here, and I like the people here. I don't think we need to turn on each other. If you read this, this will almost be verbatim of what's going through with you guys right now. It really is. I don't know if you've read it, but Rebecca, it's a good article. So they're doing a project. It's almost 13,000 acres. It's the size of the city of Manhattan in New York. And they are only putting the panels in 20% of the property to use the rest as buffer. You know what it says in here? Right in here, solar panels will only occupy 20% of the project land. A concession that's made to hide them from public view. So this is a real good article.
Well, send us the link.
Yeah, I'll send it to you. Okay, that's all I got. Thank you.
Anybody else?
Claire Ostrander, Milan Township. I had the opportunity over the last few months to attend some other planning commission meetings in different parts of Michigan, not locally. And one thing I noticed at these other meetings was the participation amongst the group of planning commissioners. In that, it seemed that the tasks were divided more. For instance, at 3 different meetings, 3 different groups, there was a chairman, just like John's organizing the meeting and running the meeting, but there was clearly a secretary that took all of the minutes and created the minutes for the next meeting, took all the notes. The other people were actively taking notes as well. And then the chairman delegated a lot of the responsibilities instead of taking them all on the chairman's lap and he or she self. For example, I know there's been conversations about, well, what did Marty say? What was the call when there was a lot of confusion amongst you all as to what was said and what was done? Well, perhaps, instead of John, you taking it all on yourself, delegate it ask for somebody to jump up and volunteer and say, okay, we need this followed up on, who wants to take that? And divide this responsibility up, so it's not all on one person. And by doing so, I think you guys will work together maybe a little better and help yourselves and relieve some of the stress off of each other, wondering what's going on, because more of you will be actively involved. Just a suggestion from what I've seen.
Thank you.
Anybody else? Yes, sir.
Tim Stone, Milan Township. Just to let the people know that the project was 900 and some acres before they had their meet and greet. Day before that, we got another guy to sign, added another 156 acres. They were told, we were told, that's it, that's all they wanted was the 900. Now they're adding more. You see where this is going? It's going to continue if you let it come in. Thank you.
Anybody else?
Leonard Ostrander, Milan Township. I've been driving around quite a bit lately. Milan Township has got a huge solar array going in, and they said it was fought. I'm talking to guys that are out there clearing the land for it. Again, we got somebody that bought in our township. You guys might want to check who owns what. Because they own a lot of land in Macon Township too. Thank you.
Anybody else? Public comment? I guess not. Okay, very good. Anybody have any comments from the board? Planning commission? Yes?
I said no song.
Not here.
Adjourned.
Thank you for your time, boys.
I know.